Have Mark Stone's back issues kept him out of the lineup again? Kelly McCrimmon tells NHL.com VGK needs to play better at home and they need to get healthy. And we are going to be talking about, in part, do you feel that the Golden Knights struggles, injuries, all of that is related to signing too many players to long-term contracts? Are they bogged down with these long-term contracts?
You're Locked On Golden Knights, your daily podcast on the Vegas Golden Knights, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hi again, everyone. Tony Cardasco along with Chris Golick. You could find us on Twitter. Of course, we are at Locked On Golden Knights, Locked On VGK on Twitter, Locked On Golden Knights on our YouTube channel. Please subscribe at Tony Dasco, at TD Chris G. So, Chris, according to Dr. Frank Saravelli, Mark Stone, the VGK captain, he's had this back injury that we saw last season, kept him out of action. And according to Saravelli, he says that Mark Stone is hurt again, same back injury, perhaps, who knows? But as we know, like when you have a back issue, it really never goes away. We've talked about this. Stone undergoing that back surgery over the off season, the lumbar discectomy, and Stone. Yeah, you like that? I had to go there with my medical knowledge.
I said that wrong. So the show, Tony, I think it was the one show I did by myself. I actually said that the wrong way. And
did I say it the right way?
No, you said it the right way. You said it the right way. I was using what a male. We're not moving on from that. So it's tough right now. And you go on random Facebook forums and Twitter and any other social aspect right now, and everyone's talking: is his career over? Is this the end? Is this going to keep on happening? Or on the other side, are we cooking the books a little bit right now? And all of a sudden Stone needs to, be shut down magically until about April the 18th or whenever the season ends or something like that. They're all valid questions right now. They're all valid concerns right now. And I don't think a world exists where VGK is just going to, say, okay, we're going to have our captain for, 40 or so games. Then we're going to shut him down for the second half, and then we're magically going to get all these players, although it's not a bad conspiracy theory, and it's a fair conspiracy theory. At the end of the day, though, we did see what happened last year when Mark Stone was off the ice for an extended period of time. That is when things went bad. That is when we went from, comfortably in the playoffs, leading the Pacific, to no longer comfortably in the playoffs, not leading the Pacific. And in a matter of weeks, it felt like all of a sudden we were chasing points and losing shootouts and losing big games and not getting good efforts. And Mark Stone is a big part of that. So many people were asking in the locker room with Nick Hague and Riley Smith on Monday, what is it like not having Mark Stone on the bench, that intensity and around the practices and stuff? And, a common answer, we don't want one person to, dictate, how things go and stuff like that, but it's noticeable. You need your captain. That's why he's the captain. So him not being out there is a major blow. Is this going to be a week or two? Is this going to be a month or two? Is this going to be forever? All those are valid questions. If I had to guess, I think VGK is going to play this a little bit safe. Are they maybe going to cook the books a little bit? Why not?
Yeah. So he missed 45 games last season due to those back issues. He's currently listed, as you mentioned, week to week with the upper body injury. And at times this season, Chris, we have noticed ourselves that it appeared as though Stone was about to break down. He just has not looked right at times. And we've commented on this repeatedly on the show.
Early in the season, he looked stiff. He looked slow at times. There's times he would fall down, and as he's getting up, it takes him a second. Like, these are professional athletes. They fall down all the time. They pop right back up in stride usually. And there's times, listen, someone like me falls on the ice. It takes me to get down on all fours and to kind of carefully work my way up. Let's call it what it is. It takes kids who are, much better skaters than myself It takes them maybe a second, but they can probably do it in stride. These are professional athletes who basically practice this sort of thing. And there are times we've seen Mark Stone get on all fours, get his edge, and just kind of carefully get up. And also, in the same token, I had been complimenting how I felt his skating has improved and how confident he seemed like he was out there. We talked about that probably as soon as a show last, I don't know, early last week. I had mentioned that. So I don't know. It's tough. And we're going to talk about the aging roster and these long-term contracts and the vets later on, but it is a fair question to ask. Is Mark Stone's body breaking down? I'm not ready to say, yes, it's breaking down. He's on the end. That's not what I'm saying. Are all these years of being a professional athlete catching up to him? It catches up to everybody, and it catches up to everybody differently. And it's not like, you said a second ago, back injuries, back surgeries, you're never the same after each one. It gets a little bit worse. I got back pain. I'm sure you got back pain. I'm sure everyone listening has back pain, and some people have gone through the surgeries and stuff. And this isn't Tommy John where you have the surgery, you're gone for a long time, but you come back stronger. It's not how the back works. I'm not a doctor by any means. I don't have any medical knowledge beyond reading what's on a pill bottle. But I can pretty confidently say there's not a whole lot of back surgeries that you come back better from. If anything, it's just getting you to be a serviceable athlete to keep you on the court, on the ice, on the field, on whatever your playing surfaces.
So I have back issues, and the doctors told me 6 months I'd have to be down. I'd have to learn how to walk again, right after the surgery,
Pass.
and all of that, right? So
give me pills.
I like, I just well, I'm okay. I just have a high tolerance of pain. I do a show every morning at 7 a.m. But I wanted to also talk, we've seen the impact already of Stone's absence. And we have to heed what Saravelli said, right? Because we've seen this act before. Robin Leonard denying that he had all those injuries. But at the end of the day, Saravelli's got some very good contacts. And I think that we need to believe him. But one question that definitely exists in the back of my mind: did Mark Stone come back too soon, too early from the surgery? He had the surgery in May, and he's back on the ice skating in October.
It's all fair. I mean, Robin Leonard, geez, there's a whole nother story for another podcast. Unfortunately for him right now, but back to Saravelli, Saravelli knows what he's talking about. And we did learn this last year where Leonard claiming I'm not injured, whatever the comments were towards Saravelli, and even what Emily Kaplan as well. Now that we're digging back into the archives here, all these things that were said, and Robin Leonard and the team was pretty adamant against all of that. Well, he was right last time. So I didn't see the necessarily full nature of Saravelli's comments. I think he has a show or he was on a pod, and was it a claim that he looks injured? Is he citing sources? Like, what was the full nature of what he said?
He had sources that had told him internally, what was going on. So I definitely believe what he says, because he does his homework, obviously. And he could have gloated, Dr. Sarah. He could have gloated like after everything started to break down with Leonard, but he didn't. No, because he knows that his sources are solid, and he didn't have to play that stupid game with the Panda and go back and forth. But now, who replaces Mark Stone? That is of a greater concern.
So, folks, pardon me. I keep looking over. I got a different device going on. Normally, I can see my playback, so it's a bad habit. I'm looking over. It's not that I'm looking at something more. I'm just trying to keep an eye on Tony here and make sure.
I'm not doing the Max Headroom thing again, am I? No.
I mean, knock on wood, your camera issues got better from the opening of the show. We've been having some technical difficulties, friends. So
and
I guess
we're both such techie guys,
right? Yeah. Imagine. So apologies for that, but I think we're okay right now. I don't even want to knock on my desk because something might get unplugged.
Something might fall apart.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I put this thing together like a year and a half ago.
It's the Mark Stone of computers right there.
Ooh, ouch, too soon. So who is going to replace Mark Stone? And, maybe this is the Moneyball thing, right? We're not looking to recreate Mark Stone. We're looking to recreate Mark Stone's output. I watched Moneyball like twice yesterday, by the way. It was awesome. Love that movie. So we're looking for, then this is like the Max Pacioretty conversation you and I had. How is Max Pacioretty's output going to be replaced? And it wasn't simply one player. It was Jack Eichel. It was Riley Smith improving his goals. It was Mark Stone we talked about. Oh, there it goes. It was Mark Stone improving his output. And then, some unsung heroes emerging like Will Carrier. Will Carrier, folks. I know, but I have to go with what the coach says. So it's the same thing right now. It's going to be from internal. Sheldon Rimpal, I thought that might be an interesting option, that he didn't necessarily get the job done in his few games. Ron Bjerg is fine at the AHL level, but he's not cracking through at the NHL level. We got Freeze Up. He's not getting it done. So, and Brennan Brisson, he's around T-Mobile. I can tell you that right now, confidently. I was on an elevator with him the other day. But he, at the AHL level, he's getting some points. I think he's 16 points, 24 games, if I recall. So he's noticeable, but his game isn't noticeable. So you can't tell me you're going to have someone like that who's okay at the AHL level. It's just going to click at the National League. That's not how it works, at least in my very amateur, un-doctor-like opinion. So this is where we look at the lineup internally. And this is where the misfit line needs to carry this team right now. They are the line that's been together since day one, on and off, and have done so well. And I mentioned this yesterday's show. I think I talked about this at the last game I covered. The misfit line is the one consistency that this team has had since its inception. They are the ones that need to lead, and they got to put goals up. That's the only way you're going to measure their success, right? If they are scoring goals. So I think it starts with the misfit line. And Jack Eichel, he found his game, and now his line mates are changing, and his game has been different lately. And Chandler Stevenson, put him on a milk carton, Tony. Put him on a milk carton. He started on line 3, then he went to line 1. But I believe Chandler Stevenson is now 1 shot in 4 games, and Jack Eichel doesn't have a whole lot more. So
Eichel had the game with 10 shots on goal. He had none. And then the last game, 1 shot on goal, I believe.
Yeah. And
they're just not right. There's no chemistry with the lines that they're on. All this jumbling of lines, it's affecting them. It definitely is.
No, you're 1,000% right. And, my next question, depending on how the game goes tomorrow nights, I do want to, not just a coach, but the players a little bit, depending on who comes out for the post-game interviews and what the mood of the locker room is. But I want to talk about that a little bit. I want to get their perspective about being with different players, especially Jack Eichel, especially Chandler Stevenson. I'm curious if they'll give anything more than a carbon answer. You got to play with the players that go out there and we practice together. That's, I call BS on that. There's much more to it than that. And I'm curious what goes into Cassidy's perspective about changing lines. Because again, I was very critical. It was, I believe, the Seattle-Vancouver back-to-back games. I could be wrong, but Seattle, they fall down 2-0 quick, right? Jumbled lines, Marchessault sits because he made a boo-boo out there, and all of a sudden the game is tied. And then they go back to the regular lines and they get blown out of the water. Okay, fine, whatever. I understand. It's a brand new game. We're starting at level, so we're going to see if the boys can get it figured out with their line mate, their traditional line mates. But the next nights, they got absolutely nothing going against Vancouver. I hope I'm getting this right. They got nothing going, and he kept the lines the same the whole game. And then now it's a high-speed blender. It's that funny meme that y'all keep putting out there with that person with the long hair shaking, I'm not even going to try and recreate that because my computer might fall apart. But the point being is, there needs to be some consistency. And Dan Duva's mentioned this at least once on the post game. What is the proper mix of letting the guys figure it out? And maybe you do sacrifice another game to keep the lines together the whole time, because maybe it leads to 3 or 4 victories after that. I don't know. And this is where our coach, with an 8-figure salary, needs to figure this out.
So you're covering the game tomorrow, right?
Yeah, I technically haven't been fully approved yet, but I sent it in. I think it's a 99% chance I'll be there.
Okay. The best part of when you asked a question of Bruce Cassidy is when he used the word frickin' in there, because I haven't heard him use that except with you. So he frickin' knows who you are, man. Coming up next, Kelly McCrimmon tells NHL.com the Golden Knights need to only worry about themselves. All these teams are starting to close ground like crazy, cliches. Right? They are all coming from every which way, including Edmonton last night. Plus, he wants VGK to play better at home. We'll get into that after this on Locked On Golden Knights. BetOnline.net is your #1 source for sports betting information, for stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league that's out there, from pro football to, of course, basketball, NBA, and college hoops and the NHL. We've got it all at betonline.net. If you love sports podcasts, you can even find those on BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest, the easiest way to get your betting information. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. Welcome back to Locked On Golden Knights. Tony Cardasco and Chris Golick from Las Vegas. We come to you each and every day, Monday through Friday. We definitely appreciate you subscribing to our YouTube channel, Locked On Golden Knights. And Chris,
appreciate you guys sticking in the boxing ring with us with our technical difficulties.
Yeah, thanks for hanging in there with us. And I know that the fans appreciate us with all the craziness that goes on. So Nick Katsanika yesterday wrote a story that was released in which he interviews Kelly McCrimmon at the College All-Star Game, which is being played in Michigan. So McCrimmon said he is not looking at the teams in the division, in the conference that are starting to close all this ground, just VGK. He believes that the fast start, like us, like many, helped VGK, and we haven't heard much from McCrimmon, so this is why I think it kind of piqued my interest yesterday. He said that, the early start, the quick start, helped this team turn the page after the injury plague last season. And so Cassidy, he said, he talked about him on Cassidy, said he's a highly intelligent coach. He said he pushes players hard and holds the team accountable. Now, do we believe this?
Oh, I definitely think he told the team accountable, Tony. I mean, I see firsthand the things he says in a public setting to us, and how he pointed out Marchessault having a stick in the wrong place after the Edmonton game about the leadership in the locker room, not conveying the importance of division games, which were now 5-7-2 or something like that, 5, whatever the number is. It's terrible. And then obviously my question, how he went back to the leadership again, and it's his job to get the guys ready at practice. It's the player's job to execute once the game starts and to motivate each other. And there's only so much he can do when the game starts. And that's a fair statement. I mean, obviously he's calling out the lines and the rotations, to working with the assistants, trying to, blenderize whatever terminology you want to use. That part is on him. But at the end of the day, Cassidy cannot control Braden McNabb hitting that puck into Amadio's foot and Jamie Benn finding it and walking right in and getting a goal. Like, that's not Coach Cassidy's job. These are professional athletes that need to pass and execute properly. Is he the accountability? I mean, the accountability is certainly there. And I don't think Cassidy is here making any friends. He's definitely not making any friends. I can feel pretty confident in that statement. But he's coaching his way. He's doing the job the way he wants to. And I got a chuckle, Tony, going through this link that you sent me from McCrimmon's talk. And the popular word was here. The Golden Knights got off to a 13-2 start. At that point, they had the best record in the NHL. It was unsustainable, but it
used the word unsustainable in there. So
they put the unsustainable in there, and then so I want to go back now. Great. So
that was good. It's almost as freaking good as Cassidy saying freaking.
So segue now for my tweet that I put out yesterday. Only had 250 views. I thought this was a good tweet. Since starting 15-3, the Golden Knights have earned 28 of a possible 54 points for a points percentage of .519, which would rank them 20th in the NHL overall and 6th in the Pacific. Obviously, they're bad times. You have to look at the totality of everything. But point being is, right now, this is a barely 500 team that is playing like a team that is borderline bottom third of the NHL. And that was before we started missing Mark Stone. Most of these stats have come. So now we have to do this without Mark Stone for week to week. Shea Theodore's week to week. It's been a month and a half. All right. So it's been a month and a half since Shea Theodore has gone down, and he's week to week. So we have to assume the best case scenario for Mark Stone is mid-February, early March, if he doesn't get shut down. Like, if he really does have, and I think he does have an injury right now, there is something bothering him, he should not be rushed back for two reasons. One, because like you said, Tony, I don't think I answered your question. Did he get back on the ice too soon from his timetable of surgery in May and back on the ice in October? The answer very well might be yes, based on what's happening right now. If he's ready to play in mid-March, in the end of March, why rush him back at this point? Give him every minute he needs for the playoffs. Hope we make the playoffs. Right now, we won't make the playoffs at this current pace. That's the fair statements. Now, what does Mark Stone sitting open up? Well, Patrick Kane, other high salaried free agents that are going to be traded. So, is it cooking the books? Fine. It's cooking the books. I don't care. Every dang team does it, and cook the books. Sit him down until the playoffs start. Let's get someone else who is going to help this team in a very big way, because you're not going to replace Mark Stone by himself with the internal players. But someone like Patrick Kane at least can put a few goals on the board at T-Mobile Arena, as long as we can keep him close to T-Mobile Arena and close to Summerlin, and he isn't getting too much trouble, because Patrick Kane, he's got a history.
Yeah. And, it's been very quiet of late for McCrimmon, but I always said from the outset that McCrimmon's job is only as safe as Jack Eichel allows it to be. I feel that Jack Eichel, he's just he's riding his coattails. He said, here's a player that can change a game in one shift. And I do believe that if VGK fails to make the playoffs this year, that should be the end of McCrimmon and possibly McPhee. I do. I seriously believe in that. But, I just think they said he wants to have them establish a better home record in the second half. And health, of course, is a big issue. And we'll get into, aging players and long-term contracts in a moment. But the job security of Kelly McCrimmon, he should not be feeling safe. And the only reason why I say this is because he is ultimately responsible for putting players on the ice. Someone had a really good point yesterday. If we keep on trading, if VGK keeps on trading for these players with nothing in return, it's going to somehow impact this organization. And I have to agree with them there. I do, because they're going to need some players. And the one thing I don't want to hear from Kelly McCrimmon in the second half of the season, Chris, I do not want to hear McCrimmon say, well, this player will be back by the playoffs. No. I don't want to deal with that again, because we dealt with that last year when they said, yeah, Mark Stone will be back. Smith will be back. This one's coming back. No, you need to play for the here and now, and then worry about who's going to be healthy for the playoffs later.
Who's our Evgeny Dadonov season 6? Who are we going to accidentally trade and have him come back because we didn't get the no trade teams? God, it's so bad. So Kelly McCrimmon attached himself to Jack Eichel. 1000% fair statement. Agree. Disagree on these trades for nothing, because we've talked about this on the show before. You had to give away Max Pacioretty. If we could have got a draft pick or something better in return, cool. But that gave us the ability to keep Riley Smith, to keep Kolasar, to re-sign Nick Wass. So, I mean, there's those types of moving pieces. And as long as we are a cap team, this is going to happen repeatedly. And that's just the nature of the beast. I'm okay with those moves. And I don't want to jump too far into our next segment, but, this is an aging roster. And one of my comments that I've made many times, I have been in love with Kelly McCrimmon as far as what he has done for this team in the first, 5 and now 6 seasons. First 4 seasons, he technically wasn't the GM for all of those, but he was a big part of roster composition from day one. I'm not going to criticize anyone who takes 3 of their first 4 seasons to the conference finals or better. No criticism whatsoever. I don't care what moves got made. I will never criticize that, especially for a brand new organization. Season 5, benefit of the doubts. Injuries, fine. I'm all day benefit of the doubt. He, McPhee, Foley, anyone else involved on a high level of this team have earned that right to get the benefit of the doubts. We love the season 5 roster when the season started, as far as being the best roster on paper. Insert Jack Eichel, but obviously Mark Stone goes down, all the injuries happen, fine, whatever, so be it. Move on from there, race the season, get it out of our memory bank. Season 6, we were giddy. We were in love. Things were going well. We solved our goaltending issue. We were 13-3. We had a long winning streak. We were the first team to defeat the mighty Boston Bruins on the road. And, Jack Eichel goes into Buffalo and, just mic drops and send him home. And all of that happened. So everything was going so well for a while, but now here come the injuries again. Are these injuries happening because Mark Stone is breaking down? Is Alec Martinez breaking down? Again, two what seem to be non-contact injuries. Miromanov getting hurt blocking a shot, fine, bad luck. Zach Whitecloud getting his foot fallen on, bad luck. Shea Theodore knee on knee, incidental contact, bad luck. But there's not, all these injuries are not bad luck right now. These are older players that are wearing down, and that is on the crimin.
Isn't that our next segment?
I don't know. You jumped the gun, so I jumped the gun, and we kept going. So take us to the next segment, and we'll keep going.
Okay.
Oh no, your camera.
Coming up next, we're going to be talking about. Chris wanted to definitely get into this. He wanted to delve into the subject about VGK's long-term contracts, aging players. Is it coming back to haunt the VGK? We'll return with more right after this on Locked On Golden Knights.
A lot of haunts right now.
Welcome back to Locked On Golden Knights. Tony Cardasco, Chris Golick from Las Vegas. And we thank you all for tuning in. Thanks for making us your first listen each and every day. And again, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Locked On Golden Knights, and check us out on Twitter. And when Chris covers the games, you have to follow him at TD Chris G, because it is really good information as the game goes along. And a lot of times, even the folks on TV and radio miss a lot of things that Chris can see there in person.
Yes.
Okay, about radio TV. I hate to be a Debbie Downer about this, but again, the narrative is you're down 1-0, injuries. Hit the injury button. Oh, we've got the injuries. Okay, 2-0. Yeah, but they're playing. Okay, that is something that is out of the control of VGK. What is under the control of the entire organization, and especially Bruce Cassidy and the team and the players, is playing with emotion. And that's where they stunk last year. That's where they stunk it up. They did not play. They were lethargic. Remember, late in the season, must-win games, and they just could not deliver. Why? Not because of the injuries, but the players they had on the ice were not inspired. So to me, I think that that's the greater issue again. It's just that this team, and it might be Mark Stone's absence, who knows? But even sometimes with Stone on the ice, they don't play that inspired brand of hockey that we feel that they need to, especially at home. And you wanted to talk about, I just kind of went off on a tangent there, but you wanted to talk about these long-term contracts and aging players, and perhaps this could be leading to a lot of absences with this team. And you mentioned before the break, you mentioned Alec Martinez's name, right? It's not been right this entire season. Lost a step. He lost a step. And what do they have on his contract? A couple of years left. And everyone that they locked down, they're 3, 5, 7. I mean, the Carlson contract is through 2026. Seriously, I know I goof around, and that is Eichel through 25, Waugh through 2026. Riley Smith now through 25, Pietrangelo through 2026, Leonard through 2024. I mean, those are some of the contracts that they're going to be stuck with. Eventually, they will be stuck with a lot of these contracts, and I think that is to the detriment of this organization.
A lot of points, a lot of very good points made right there. And Alec Martinez, I put out, he lost a race very badly early in the first period along the boards where he had the step, and he lost the race. I mean, I forgot who it was. It was their third line winger. I forgot who the player was. It wasn't Jason Robertson. It wasn't someone like that. But point being is when the defenseman has a step, you got to get to the puck. And it didn't create a big scoring opportunity, but right there in that moment, like you're watching, and there's a lot of times we've seen Alec Martinez just not be as quick on his ankles and his cuts. He makes up for a lot of his lack of recent ability to skate as well with his ability to block shots, with his brain, with his knowledge of the game. But that's only going to take you so far. Peyton Manning, for example. Peyton Manning was able to extend his career a long time. Dude was pretty smart, but unfortunately he doesn't have the rushing ability of Justin Fields. I know it's not an apples to apples situation, but there's a little bit of logic that we can take to the ice with that sort of thing right now. Players are catching up to him. He's getting older, and he's got thousands and thousands and thousands of hockey pucks taken to his body. A lot of places where padding doesn't even exist. Dude's an absolute warrior. It's catching up to him. William Karlsson, the way VGK has just given away players, Tony, the way they've actually just said, okay, take this player for nothing, for future considerations, for a bag of pucks, for a water bottle, for a 7th round draft pick. Please, Max Pacioretty, please take Max Pacioretty. Oh, and by the way, we'll even give you Dylan Coghlan, who we could use Dylan Coghlan right now, by the way. Dylan Coghlan would actually be a great fit in this situation that we're currently dealing with. So that's an underrated, impactful move right now. William Karlsson, you bleepity bleep poop emoji swear word
Frickin'.
There you go. Believe that William Carey. God, now I'm getting my Williams mixed up. The worst of the Williams on the team, William Karlsson. Ooh, that hurts. You can bet your bottom dollar that McCrimmon shopped him to anyone that would take his contract at full. I will confidently say that 10,000%. And there probably was not one taker in the NHL that would take him for anything less than VGK keeping half his salary. At that point, we're going to gamble and hope he can find it. So, yes, that's a long contract. Nick Waugh contract, I like. Jack Eichel contract, I like. Alex Pietrangelo. I mean, here's another one we can talk about as far as breakdowns go. He's playing phenomenal. He's asked to play 30 freaking minutes a game or more, 30 minutes of NHL hockey. And part of this is because of the injuries. Part of this is because VGK is desperate for wins. His breakdown is coming if it's not already happening. Look at his heat maps and things on like Money Puck and stuff like that show the quality of the games that the players have. The last game, like the players who weren't on the ice a lot had the best games, like Ben Hutton, Freeze, all these players who who had like 6 minutes. Pietrangelo, he was all the way on the left. If you're on the left, it's bad. If you're on the right, it's good. Easy way to explain this. Pietrangelo is almost as far left as you could go. Not his fault. I understand that. But Pietrangelo, I don't think can last the season at full health, or B, at full ability is probably the better word we can use with all these minutes he's getting. And last time I checked, the season does not get easier on these players the deeper it goes. It gets harder. The games get more intense. They get more physical. That's another thing we can talk about, the physicality. You know, there's so many things that come out when things aren't going well. And, you know, a lot of questions exist right now. About what McCrimmon's done about these contracts. And I know I'm on a bit of a rant right now, but it's all fair. It's all things that need to be acknowledged as we get into troubled waters, my favorite term, which I mentioned back in November about this team.
Yeah, you could start to see things going a little bit sideways. And when Bruce Cassidy had said, you know, that this team wasn't playing with emotion back in November, we could sort of sense that he wanted to make sure, they needed a sense of urgency that they were not playing with. Great word there in quote. And then the roster construction. This is a roster that might have been really good 3 years ago, if you think about it.
It's decent now. We have to acknowledge the success that this team had at full health. We have to make sure we keep that. We have to stay neutral about that. When this roster is healthy, we have checked off the box about goaltending. When, you know, Logan's struggling a little bit right now, but we feel confident.
Last 3 games, NG.
Yeah, no, and that's also very fair. Aiden Hill is fine, but is Aiden Hill the one who's going to bring us all the way to glory at the end of the season? He can help if needed, but LT's got to be the man. But point being is, we're confident in Logan Thompson. Even though he's having a bit of a rough patch, we are confident. He was fine last game. He was fine against Dallas. He gave the team a chance to win. That's the only thing that a goalie needs to do, is give the team a chance to win. This team early in the season, they look like a cup competitor, Tony. At full health, they looked like a cup competitor. When Bruce Cassidy had all the tools at his disposal to, you know, make the lines what they were, and the moves he made worked. They're not working now. Is it because of personnel? Is it because of lack of intensity, urgency, heart, emotion, whatever Chicago, you know, AM 720 or the score 900 you want to use, you know, another story for another time. But point being is, you know, maybe this is Chris Kondos, love you, man, but the fire and passion stuff here, you know, maybe just a little bit of that's lacking. And we had fans in the 200 levels shouting that nonsense. You got to hit someone. You need more emotion. Show some heart. Like, oh my God, is this really where the VGK is at right now?
Yeah, it really is. And as we've mentioned, this is not the roster. These are the cards that were dealt to Bruce Cassidy. This is not the roster that he wants. This is not the type of player that he
I
wants.
don't think any coach gets that though now, Tony. With how I don't think any coach besides
But look at what they
Cooper,
built. But
you
look at
know,
what they built in Boston, and just that gritty nature of that team, and just how the physicality of that team. That's what really stands out, and that's how they built the Boston
and you're
Bruins, and
saying
that's why the
Cassidy is a
best.
part of that because he had a lot of these players at the AHL and kind of molded him his way.
I think a lot of it had to do with him helping out,
Okay.
I'm sure, with players that fit his system. Sometimes, like in football, okay, I can go to this. In football, there's a new defensive coordinator, right, at UNLV, and they're going to build the defensive structure and the scheme around the talent that they have. Not They're not going to come in with a system that they've identified already. They're going to build it around those players. But Cassidy still sticks to his system with players that might not fit into this system right now.
So there was
Does that
something
make
that
any
I
sense?
no, it does. And there was some that I pointed. I'm just watching the clock right now. This is a lot of good stuff right now. I wish we had more time, but I mentioned that I found it strange in the opening presser where friggin' McCrimmon had to
Yeah.
sit next to Cassidy for God knows what reason. And someone was asked about roster composition, what the coach's role is in that. And McCrimmon, they're independent of each other. Basically, McCrimmon says, I'm making the roster, you deal with it. That's what he said. That's my paraphrase, but like, I don't know. I would think if I'm the coach, I would at least like to have a little bit of, hey, I get this is the roster now, but look at what David Krejci did. Look at what David Pasternak did for me. I'm not saying we go out and get those guys, but those types of players really fit in my system. Looking down the road, if there are some trade targets, if there's some free agency, can we look at players that fit that mold? And, that would be the type of conversation that I think any coach in the NHL should be able to have in an open door conversation with the GM. But McCrimmon, for lack of a better term, nope, I'm making the roster. Have fun.
Yeah. And we've seen that come back to haunt them too when they don't have enough players on the ice and all of that. And
it's coming.
No, I definitely want to talk as well. Can we put this on tomorrow's show's docket about Jack Eichel? He needs a line mate. He needs
God, yeah.
a pairing. Can we talk about that?
Of course. I called Nick Waugh, couldn't even handle a hot pass from him early in the first. Would have been a great scoring chance. Totally.
Yeah, I definitely want to get into that, but it's of great concern here as this roster starts to wear down the long-term contracts, players that are now aging, players like Martinez. I was looking at Alec Martinez, his stats, and obviously he has not scored a goal, but the most shots he's taken in a game, I think, is 3. And he just doesn't have that explosiveness, and just that right circle slap shot was just heavy. That was a heavy shot. It was pretty good, but we haven't seen that, have we? I mean, I haven't seen him load up there from the right circle and try to blast it into the net. Not at all. Not at all. And
there's a
that
lot
could be
of
a sign.
questions right now,
Yeah.
and I'm glad it's only Wednesday. We can talk more about it on Thursday.
Yeah, and I'm okay. There's winding up this home stretch. Game number 6 coming up against Detroit tomorrow. I'm concerned. They've been home too long. Yeah, all that. And now they're going to have an all-star break here coming up shortly.
Another excuse
where they get to, oh my goodness, another excuse. A lot more on the way tomorrow. The preview of VGK against the Red Wings. For my man, Chris Golick, I'm Tony Cardasco. We thank you all for tuning in. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. See you tomorrow right here on Locked On Golden Knights.